Hi, welcome to the lecture on the toolbar. The toolbar is your floating little palette over here, and by default it's set up to be long. You can change it to the way Photoshop used to have it, which makes it double wide. But this really takes up a lot more real estate on your document, so it's not really the best method to keep it at, but you still may see a lot of people working that way, myself included, because sometimes I can't find the tools as quickly this way. So I like to look at it the way I used to, and I'm getting better. But this is actually the way you should try to keep learning it, because as you get working on bigger and bigger documents, you're going to have this screen filled or be collaging and have several screens open at a time. In this toolbar, it's divided into 4 sections, and the sections are divided by lines right here. This first section is the moving tools, selection tools, and the eyedropper tool. The second section has your healing brush, your paintbrush tools, your cloning tools, your history brush tools, erasing tools, filling tools. This will fill with color. And there's more tools under all of these tools that have the little triangle. See all of these tools that have the little triangle? There's more tools under it. And we will get into the details of this at a later time. I just kind of want you to notice the separation in the toolbar. So this is your filling or your gradient tool. This is your blurring tool, sharpening tool, and smudge tool. And I can honestly tell you, I don't think I ever use these tools as often because there's better ways to use it. But while you're in the beginning stages of Photoshop, you'll probably use those tools more. The dodge tool, the burn tool under it. These, if you do photography and have been one of those photography students in the darkroom, you'll recognize these tools because these are things you actually do in a darkroom. And the sponge tool is underneath that. The next set of tools are some creation tools. You have vector path pen tool, which will draw paths. And if you know Illustrator already and you are already familiar with this tool, it works exactly the same as it does in Illustrator. Your type tool under here, and there's several different type tools as well, because like I said, there's more tools under here, but they all pertain to the tool that you see at the top. And you have a direct select tool, and this is different than this mover tool, even though they're both arrows. These two tools are used to select the paths that you draw with the pen. And just to give you an example, with the pen, I would draw a path. And this path isn't a line that prints, it's just a path that's kind of a selection. And so I can use these tools. The path selection tool will grab the whole path and move it, whereas the direct select tool will grab an individual node on the path and only move that node. So if I wanted this one to pop out more. So that's the difference between those tools. And then you have a shape tool. And there's several shapes under here, and these are vector. In another video, we're going to discuss the difference between vector and bitmap, so you'll understand what we're looking at. But bitmap's made of pixels, and vectors, mathematical calculations between nodes. This path right now is vector. And these next tools are the new 3D tools that came with this version of Photoshop. So this is the first time Photoshop has seen these tools, and they're really exciting. The hand tool I use in Photoshop constantly. Let me get rid of that path so that we don't have to keep looking at it on there. The hand tool is a navigation tool, and it doesn't do anything when this picture is zoomed out like this. But if I zoom in on it, I can see I can move around the image just by clicking and dragging. I rarely select this tool from the toolbar. I usually stay in whatever tool I happen to be on. And if I then want this hand tool, the smartest shortcut to remember is to hold down your space bar and then click and drag. Because if you hold down the space key, no matter what tool you're in, holding down that space key will turn it into that hand tool. And you can just kind of navigate around the image as you want. Then you have the zoom tool under here, and by default it's on plus. You see the little plus sign in the center. If you hold down your Alt key on your PC or your Option key on your Mac, you'll turn to a minus sign. And you'll also notice up here, if I hold down that Alt key or Option key, it switches between the two modes. And that brings me to another thing I forgot to point out earlier. Each tool I pick gets a different set of options up here in the toolbar. So this switches to give you options that go with whatever you have selected here. And they kind of correspond. And this toolbar can also be moved, but I suggest leaving it where it's at because you really need it all the time. You don't want to shut it and accidentally close it because that's something that you would lose all your options and have to keep bringing back. If we look further down on the keyboard, on the toolbar, you have your foreground and your background color, and then you have a tiny representation of that right here, and this is your reset foreground and background color. So if I had been selecting different colors and I need to get back to black and white, all I have to do is actually click on here, or let me take it back to a color. If I hover over it, do you see how it says default foreground and background colors parenthesis D? If I hit D on the keyboard, it also resets those colors. Any of these tools that you hover over, you're going to get that bubble. And in that bubble, it's going to tell you in parentheses what the key command for that is. So tools that you want to use repeatedly, you're going to want to memorize those. For instance, I like to switch these colors back and forth, which is this button here. But I learned that X was the key for that, and I use it constantly. So by clicking X on my keyboard, I can switch back and forth. At the bottom here, we have the masking tool. And this is a quick mask, and this is a different way to make a selection of an area. I can click with black on my mask, on a brush, just a normal paintbrush. I can use my drawing tools to make selections. So even though it looks like I'm painting his eye red, I'm not, because I clicked on Quick Mask first, and now when I go out, I've made a selection. Click again, and I'm in Quick Mask mode, and you can tell, because up here it says Quick Mask. Click out, and I now have a selection. Okay, so that's a really fast summary of the toolbar, but we'll get into more of the tools in a later video.